alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Looking for a pair of shoes? Let's Up Stores has a wide range of selection for unisex footwear. We have the best quality of all brands at pocket-friendly prices and we make deliveries countrywide. Just place your order or reach us on 0772 08 0090. You can also check up at Let's Up Stores on all our social media platforms. Let's Up, craft your own footprints.
The alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Edakika ziri musanvu ezakayita kusawa 2 ez'okumakya mbaniriza nnyo wano ku Digitalk TV. Amanya nze Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. Olunaku olwaleero ziri ennaku z'omwezi 3 tumaliza omwezi guno ogwa mukulukuta bitungotungo oba gye waliise October omwaka tuli mu gwa 2023. Mbaniriza nnyo wonna we musinzira okuba nga mutulaba enku olwaleero. Tusiimye nnyo kubanga mukola kyamaanyi lunaku okubanga mutwegaseeko tekibeera kintu kitono nnyo. Amanya nze Edgar Mathew Karuhanga era ndi muweereza wano ku Digitalk TV wensinzira okubanga nkubuulira biki ebibadde gy'otabadde ate mawulire ekyagabadde gakyagenda mu maaso mu ggwanga ne wabweru w'eggwanga. Tulina mawulire mangi nnyo getugenda okubanga tuyitamu nga mukimanyi buli lunaku olwa balaza oba Monday tubeera ne General Moses Bigirwa okuva mu kibiina ekyo ekya National Unity Platform. Deputy mobilizer waabwe are in charge of the eastern region, that is the Busoga region, and the bigger, the bigger tugambe wa Moroto region, that entire region omwami oyo yatera okubanga agikulembera. So olunaku olwaleero tugendera kubeera naye amawulire munzikirize tugende. Tulina mangi agabadde gatambula eyo gye mutabadde. Nzuuza tutandikireko wabweru w'eggwanga mu lutalo olw'aba Israel n'aba Palestine ab'omu lwannanda lwa Gaza olukyagenda mu maaso. Twogerera ng'abantu abakunukkiriza mu 400 n'okusoba be baakafiira mu lutalo luno ku sayidi eya Gaza oba aba Palestine, ate nga ne basajja bano aba Israel bakaluzinga abantu abakunukkiriza mu 1,500. Olutalo lukyagendera ddala mu maaso. Twogera nga ekiro ekyakeesezza olunaku lw'eggulo president w'eggwanga lino erya Israel newo cabinet ye we bali mu kubanga bakulembera eggwanga eryo essaawa zino basazeewo okukola kyewaliise ground invasion oba bannamagye okubanga bayingira mu lwannanda lwa Gaza. Kino nno kibaddewo oluvannyuma lwa sabbiiti 2 ezibadde so intense nga entalo zibadde zikyagenda mu maaso obanga strikes ez'amaanyi zibadde zikolebwa wali ku bwengula bw'eggwanga lino ekitundu kino eky'e Gaza. So tulabye nga Israel badde ekasukayo ebikompola bingi era abantu bangi badde bafiira mu airstrikes ezo. Naye oluvannyuma lwa airstrikes zino Israel yasazeewo ekole kyewaliise ground offensive, so bakkiriza bannamagye baabwe okubanga bayingira mu lwannanda lwa Gaza eyo. In fact twogerera nga abakulembera Israel bamaze dda okukakasa nti eno Gaza land yafuuse dda kyewaliise battleground era badde bawa abantu bangi amagezi basobole okubanga bava mu bifo bino babanga babyamuka mu budde obwamangu bava mu northern Gaza. Babadde babawa advise abamu basobole okubanga bakkirira mu Gaza ow'amaserengeta oba southern Gaza oba abamu banoonye engeri gye basobola okubanga bava mu kifo ekyo kuba twogera kati eyo yafuuse battleground era abantu bangi abali mu kufiira mu lutalo olwo. So bikyagenda mu maaso. Luno lutalo lwabalukawo ng'ennaku z'omwezi ndozo zaali 7 October. Abasajja bano aba Hamas abasinzira mu lwannanda lwa Gaza we basalawo okubanga baataakinga Israel era ndoza mujjukira mu coordinated attacks ezaakolebwa ku nnaku z'omwezi 7 omwezi guno gwennyini twalaba nga abasajja bano ab'e Gaza aba Hamas balumba Israeli yawe era batta abantu abakunukiriza mu nusu 1000 era bangi babatwalanga abawambe so mu mbeera yeeyo so Israel mu retaliatinga oba mu kwerwanako yasalawo etandika okubanga erumba abasajja bano ab'e Gaza era yatandika mu airstrikes nga bwe mbagambye kati basazeewo okubanga babafuufugaliza ddala era amagye aga Israel gatandise dda okubanga gayingira mu lwannanda lwa Gaza tetumanyi ngeri gye bigenda kubanga bitambulamu naye abantu bangi badde bawa ku magezi ku ngeri ki gye basobola okubanga luno olutalo balumalawo nzijukira abasajja ba Russia ne President wa Vladimir Putin wadde talina moral authority eyogere ku lutalo kubanga naye ali mu kulwanira mu ggwanga erya Ukraine naye yasazeewo yawa advise gye waliise two-state system tuwabeerewo states 2 ez'enjawulo zisobola okukwatagana awamu naye kibadde tekinaba kubanga kikolebwa so two-state system ekyagaanye wadde nga okimanyi ekyo region yonna edda bagiyitanga the Great Palestine ne Israel yenyini weeri that was the Great Palestine Empire oba kyewalise the Great Palestine Colony ey'abasajja bano Abangereza naye ndowooza mumanyi ebyabaawo mu 1948 Israel bagideclaring a country of its own ne bagiwa ekitundutundu ku ggwanga lino erya Palestine era kati n'Abapalestine abali mu lwananda lwa Gaza baconnectinga wali ne mu West Bank okubanga bakola ensi eyawamu gye waliise eya Palestine wadde ng'eno ensi tennaba kubanga eri recognized by the United Nations so tebagimanyi nga ggwanga era mu lukiiko lwa United Nations abasajja bano aba Palestine baliyo nga ba observer naye tebaliyo nga ba permanent member mu mbeera eyo yennyini so olutalo lukyagenda mu maaso naye nga abantu abalabirabira ewala olutalo luno balutamiiza okubanga luli close to a genocide kubanga olaba engeri okulwana okubadde kugenda mu maaso bantu bangi abattiddwa abaana abakyala abaami abacivilians kwegamba olutalo luno terubeera lulungi mu mbeera yonna kale munzikirize tugendeko mu mawulire amalala ndoza tukomewo wano mu ggwanga wetukomawo wano mu ggwanga lya Uganda ngenda tandikirako wali mu kampani oba ekitongole kye bayita Digitalk Media Initiative ekitongole kino kyasalawo okwewaayo nga kisalawo okubanga kiverifying oba nga kisensula amawulire abaana bano abavubuka kye bakola nti basalawo nti oba waliwo amawulire amakyamu agabadde gatambula baga debunking oba baga fact checking oba bagasunsula okubanga bakuwa amawulire amatuufu so bano ku lunaku olwokutaano sabbiiti ewedde ekitongole kya Digitalk Media Initiative ekisinzira wali ekabalagala kyalaunchinga app yaabwe empya oba project yaabwe empya gye balina n'abasajja bano aba United States Mission bano nno nga bakwataganira wamu n'ekitongole kya kye bayita Media Challenge Initiative ne US Embassy batandise project egenda okubanga eyamba okusensula amawulire oba okugaverifyinga amawulire mu bulungi so balaunchinze kyewaliise the D-Bank Info Verifier ngeno app egenda kuyamba abantu okubanga bagikozesa basobola okubanga bafuna amawulire amatuufu eno app ogikola otya ogenda ku mutimbagano gwa Play Store osobola okubanga ogijja tennaba kubanga etuuka ku App Store naye ku Play Store osobola okubanga ogidownloadinga n'ogibuuza ekibuuzo kyonna kye wali yadde ng'oyagala amazima ku kyo era ye esobola okubanga eku fact checkingira amazima ago n'ekuwa amawulire amatuufu obanga n'ekibuuzo ky'oba obuuzizza esobola okukiwa ba fact checker oba bannamawulire abali mabega wa app eyo ne bakunoonyeza amawulire amatuufu ne bagakuwa kati nno kino bakironsingidde wali ku MCI Hub era abantu bangi ababaddeyo nga waliyo nga n'omwami William Pope oba His Excellency William Pope ambassador wa America mu ggwanga lino erya Uganda yabaddeyo okubanga ye mugenyi omukulu nga balaunchinga app eno abalala ababaddewo mwabaddewo abadde mu balecturer okuva mu masettendekero ag'enjawulo twabaddeyo n'abannamawulire ab'enjawulo nga bakulembeddwamu omwami Solomon Serwanja era n'aba students ab'enjawulo nabo babaddewo nga app eno eronchingibwa ababadde ku scene bagamba nti app egenda kubanga eyamba nnyo amawulire okubanga gali automated oba okubanga tulina amawulire amatuufu naddala mu kaseera kano nga credibility si kyekintu kyosanga mu mawulire ekitongole kino ekya Digitalk Media Initiative kyatandikibwawo abavubuka ab'enjawulo abalowooza nti nno basobola okubanga bakyusa eggwanga lino nga baliwa amawulire amalungamu ate nga matuufu so muyogeyoge aba Digitalk Media Initiative keeko nno kye tusobola okubanga twogera ku nsonga eyo yennyini tuveeko kaawo tugendeko wali ewa president w'eggwanga lino erya Uganda, President Yoweri Kaguta Tibuhaburwa Museveni. Sabbiti ewedde waliwo ekiteeso ekyokubanga batandikawo banga balaunchinga the Amin Education Institute. Nonno nga kigenda kubeeranga wala institute egenda okubanga ejjukira ebirimu omwami ono Idi Amin Dada gye yakola. Ajjukira Amin yafuga eggwanga lino erya Uganda wakati w'omwaka gwa 1971 paka mu mwaka gwa 1979. Omwami ono Idi Amin Dada gyali emyaka 9 bweddu ng'akulembera eggwanga lino erya Uganda. Naye mu kaseera ke yakulemberamu lino eggwanga Uganda bagimanya nnyo naye bagimanya lwa nsonga ezitaali nnungi ddala. Amin mu bimu bye yakola mwe mwali okutta bannayuganda ab'enjawulo abali prominent mu mbeera eyo yennyini. So bantu bangi baavumirira ebikolwa bya Amin Dada era ne President Museveni azzeemu n'akikakasa nti nno tebasobola kubanga bakkiriza ekijjukizo kyonna ekya omwami ono Amin naddala ku ttaka lino. Amin ono ebintu bye yakola tebyali birungi nnyo era bintu bingi bye yakola ebya affectinga bannayuganda mu mbeera etaali nnungi era yagamba tewali kyamaanyi kyolina kubanga ojjukira ku mwami Idi Amin Dada. Naye kino tugenda kuba nga tukimulungulamu n'omwami oyo General Moses Bigirwa okumbulira kikyalowooza ku nsonga eno because omwami Amin wadde nga yalina ebibi bye nga buli muntu w'abeera nabyo waliwo ebirungi bye yakola era bintu bingi by'osobola okugamba nti no it's on record kino Amin Dada ye yakiteekawo. So are we doing a politics of division oba twetaaga national reconciliation as a country because wetuba tutuuse kaseera bwe kati naye era ng'owulira nti bakama baffe tebaagala kubanga tujjukira bapulezidenti abaavaawo endowooza oluusi kiba si kirungi nnyo. Naye of course nze ndi munnamawulire sinze mba ntunuulira nsonga naye olunaku lwali tugenda kubanga tunyumyamu ku mbeera eyo tulabe kituufu ddala nti Amin ono talina kubanga ajjukibwa oba tugambe ye ebibi yakola yes byali bingi bantu bangi abaafa naye waliwo abakulembeze abatabikoze we tuba tukomparinga omwami Idi Amin Dada emyaka gy'omwenda n'emyaka tugambe nga 37 egya NRM wabaddewo era ebibadde si birungi. So tugambe mbu tewali NRM kirungi kyekoze. What does that mean? Ndowooza tulina okuba nga twerowoozaamu ng'abannayuganda nti tulina okufuna kye bayita politics of harmonization or politics of unity at the end of the day. So katuyinde tulabe omwami General Bigirwa kyanaatugamba ku nsonga eno yennyini. Ndowooza tugendeko mu mawulire amalala dakiika ndowooza ziri 19 bannaye zaakayita ku ssaawa 2 ez'okumakya. Amannya Edgar Mathew Karuhanga era ndowooza ntandise okuba nga ntuuka ku ntandikwa y'enkomerero ey'amawulire gano naye nga sinnamaliriza waliwo ekiteeso mu Parliament ekigenda maaso nti baleetewo ekifo kya Assistant Deputy Speaker of Parliament. Kino nno kivudde ku mbeera eri genda maaso mu Parliament wali oluvannyuma lwa Speaker Anita Among okubanga yagenda mu leave ey'endowooza ebeera ya myezi 2 nnaku 6 okuva oluvannyuma lwe yafuuka Nnaalongo yogayoga Speaker Anita Among ye ne bbaawe Engineer Hashim Moses Magogo welcominga ezzadde ly'abalongo sabbiiti eyo ewedde. So okuva we baafuna abaana bano kibadde kiraga nti nno ndowooza kigenda kubeera tedious process for Thomas Tayewo okubanga running ennyumba eno omuntu omu. So waddewo ekiteeso ekibadde kigenda mu maaso mu nkubo za Parliament nti batandikewo kyewaliise position eya Assistant Deputy Speaker of Parliament nti mu kaseera nga bonna babiri tebaliiwo entuula za Parliament ne government business ejja kusigala ng'egenda mu maaso wali mu August House. Naye bantu bangi beebuuza do we need more positions because nga tubaddewo ne ba speakers ab'enjawulo nga bali babiri for a long time now naye badde basobola okuba nga babalansinga emirimu gyabwe. Lwaki akaseera bwe kati bwe twetaakira ate speaker omupya ate ne deputy speaker ate ne assistant speaker ndowooza oluusi tuba tuli mu kukola kyewaliisa extravagance. Ate kino kikuleetera ku Uganda ekola reactionary business oba bannayuganda abasalawo ebintu okucountaringa ekiba kyalredde kyagenze mu maaso. So ndowooza tukirowoozeemu naye era tujja kuba nga tukinyumyamu nga show ekyagenda mu maaso. Bannange nkamalirize n'amawulire ndowooza mu by'emizannyo tugendako mu by'emizannyo wano mu ggwanga. KCC akyabonaabona bannange mumusabire kyonna ekimuliko tetukitegeera wali erugogo bannanga basaba musabe mwe abakiri Allah namwe buli omu akola ekyasobola okukola kubanga KCC ijira emipiira 5 naye tennaba kubanga ewangula mupiira gwonna emipiira kuva season we yatandika eno eya 2023-2024 eya Uganda Premier League KCCA bakamu kuba emipiira 5 talinamu point yemu era etwogerera nga yasembyeyo mu kibinja ekiti kyewunyisa anti KCC abadde Giant mulamba abadde alese coach abadde mugwira wadde ensangi zino bamugobye ngeresa abazanyi abalala ate abazanyi nga basamba mpira mulungi inamba international players okuva mu ggwanga erya Angola naye kyewunyisa lwaki bikyaganye wakyaliwo ndoza ekizibu mpolampola mu KCCA nga tiimu oba nga ekitongole tetumanyi embeera kyegenda mu maaso ku KCCA wetwogereranga bo era tiimu yasembeyo bakuba yadde tiimu ya National Enterprise Corporation abakeegatta ku kibinja bewaliise aba NEC babakubye goolo za 2 ku bwerere nga babakubira ku kisaawe kyabwe kyennyini kya Philip Omondi Stadium wali e Lugogo. So KCCA ali bubi ndoza mujjuka ne kitara yamusanga wennyini namukuba goolo zaali 3 Bully yagulawo season nga naye amukuba omupiira mulamba Express naye nakuba tiimu eno ya KCCA kwegamba KCCA mu abagiwagira si birungi ate ndoza muddamu ne Villa naye yabakubye omupiira no I think Villa tebannaba kubanga bamuzanya kuba Villa yagudde amali ne Vipers kati ate KCCA bannange mugisabire ebintu bibi nnyo naye era temusubwa olunaku ndoza lugenda kubeera lwanca Premier League ya Uganda ekomawo tugenda kubeera ku St Mary's Kitende nga Vipers egenda kubanga etunka mu kisaawe ekyo ndoza bagenda kubanga batuuka ne Wakiso Giants mu abalinamu kasente omutwalo gwo gugenda omupiira gugenda kubeera under the lights kasaawe mu yennyini ndoza naku lwanca temusubwa tugenda kubeerawo mpola nga tulaba Vipers ngezanya tiimu ya Wakiso Giants. Vipers nayo ebadde tenakolera bulungi season eno byesiba bikutuka eri mukusi ebintu tebitegerekeka bulungi naye katusabe mukama abayambe bajja kubanga basuuka naye nga tuvuddeko wano mu ggwanga erya Uganda bwe tugenda mu International Premier League English Premier League sorry nawo si birungi Manchester United naye KCCA wano emipiira bamukuba bukubi tukitegeera olunaku lweggulo abadde bazanya tiimu ya Manchester City mu kyewaliise Manchester Derby ne babalabisiza nnyo Manchester yakuye Manchester United goalo ndoza zabadde nga 3 musajja Erling Bright Haaland yakubye goalo zade 2 nakola n'omukisa gumu ogwa Phil Foden yamukoledde omukisa era omupiira ogwo gwawedde goalo zabadde 3 mu mbeera eyo yennyini Manchester City akyabonaabona backline yesi nnungi olunaku lweggulo walabye nti abatandise omupiira ogwo kwabaddeko Evans ng'akuba ne Harry Maguire nga mu namba 3 waliyo Lindelof ng'olabye ddala tiimu yo era kinga cohesion teri wamu omupiira gwe bakuba site waligambe si mupiira guweesa kitiibwa mu mbeera eyo so Manchester City yakozeseza advantage eno okubanga edominatinga play in fact bakubisiza Man U buli kimu tewali Man U kyosobola gamba muno kyasinze Manchester City on the day so Manchester City ndoza ya exposing ebizibu Eric Ten Hag ne bazanyi bebakyayina ndoza beetaaga okubanga bekolamu omulimu nga bukyali naye mu mipiira emirala yo Liverpool ogwaye yagujjeeyo yakubye goolo 3 ngekuba tiimu ya Nottingham Forest Brighton yagudde maliri ne Fulham gwabadde ndoza goolo emu kwemu Everton ne West Ham nago gwagwereddeawo maliri mu mbeera eyo yennyini kwegamba byo bikyagenda mu maaso English Premier League mu mbeera eyo katujje tulabe ndoza ne midweek tulinayo emipiira nja kubangi bawa mpola naye ngegamoli egensobola okubanga mbawaako ku ddakiika zino 26 ezakayita ku ssaawa 2 ez'okumakya nze Edgar Mathew Karuhanga ndoza ke kaseera tugende tuwumulemu katono bwe tukomawo omwami Bigirwa ajja kuba atwegattako tunyumemu emboozi naye paka ku ssaawa 4 ez'akalasamayanzi eno nno ye Digitalk TV nze Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. Let's go for a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, recorder. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
Shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Are you craving for that special meal that will entice your taste buds and leave you with lasting, thrilling memories? Look no further. Spice Island Bulenga has got your answer. Natural, fresh and delicious juice, the best meals. Don't miss our daily specials from Monday to Sunday. Pizza Wednesday, Saturday Pizza Bonanza, you buy one and take two. Come dine with us and feel the experience. We are located at Prime Shopping Center in Bulenga, Mitiana Road. For inquiries, call us on 0704111720. Spice Island, we treat your cravings.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Okulikeyo mukuwumulamu okwo zino ziri eddakiika 32 ezakayita ku ssaawa 2 ez'okumakya nze Edgar Karuhanga jeno bigirwa tannaba kubanga atuuka ndowooza alina wakwatidde mpolampola naye tugenda kubanga tweyongerayo mpola ne show yaffe ey'olunaku olwaleero negatiddwako omwami munnamateeka munnamawulire munnamateeka ate nga muwandiisi omwami Tulyahabwe agenda kunegatako tube nga tunyumyamu ku nsonga ezigenda maaso mu ggwanga ne wabweru w'eggwanga. Tulyahabwe nkwaniriza ssebo.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. My name is Tulyahabwe. I am glad to be a part of this in the morning right now. And as we always say, usually when we come here, I start with a disclaimer. That anything and everything I say here is only my opinion and as far as my senses and my wisdom can take me. So I'm glad to be here anyways. It's a great pleasure. Every time that we appear on this show, it's so that we can learn a thing or two together. Whether we know or you know what we do not know, you compliment us. And what we know, we also help you learn one or two things. So thank you so much for having me. And I wanted to also express my condolences for yesterday evening. It wasn't such a good weekend for fans of Mathew. It wasn't a very good weekend. but it has become a phenomenon. It's no longer new. It's an everyday thing. Mathew being beaten is nothing. Yesterday I had a lot of feelings mixed. That is Tulyahabwe. Mubuuza mu Luganda azze mu Luzungu sitegeera ngeri eyo nawe gye weekola. The previous weekend you had survived, you were praising Onana and Magoya. Nendako ekibuuzo kyange kikubuuza mu lulimi Luganda gw'okiddamu mu Luzungu. Kitegeeza ki ekyo? I'm not very good with Luganda. So but you can speak it, can't you? I can speak some Luganda, but I'm not good with it, very good with it. So instead of you used to call it Okubembogo, and I could avoid it altogether. Okay, oyo mwami Tulyahabwe nga mbagambye munnamateeka munnamawulire ate nga musajja muwandiisi. That is just a snippet of what he does. Rogers, how's your week? Oh, the week just began, so I wouldn't say there's much I can say about how my week is. But I'm hopeful, of course. One thing, first of all, I'm a believer, and I also believe that all or most of the things I do is not in my control. There's a superior being that we call God who is always in charge. And I hope that this week will be good. For the previous one was relatively okay, a bit up and down, but it is good. I had maybe one of the highlights, away from the work here that I do here, is as part of some meeting with the International Trade Center. They're trying to do some teach coffee farmers in Uganda to sort of up their standards in coffee, because the EU Parliament, I think about a month or two ago, this year, I'm not sure, I think about 2 or 3 months, sometime back, they put out a due diligence directive that every company or country in the world, if they are targeting the European market, they need to have standards in place. And that moves from the environmental standards, from the worker standards, the labor, how you treat them, the ratio of men to women, gender in the workplaces, how the value chain is. And as we know, coffee in Uganda has always had a problem with that, with coffee. The value chain is very rigged. People do not get what they should get. Ordinarily, coffee people should be getting relatively good amount, at least per kilo. But now they get less than half of what that should be. So they are trying to put all of those things in order so that we are still able to access the European markets. If we do not... But what's the dynamic of the European market? Why is it that the Europeans get to gain from that coffee more than you people who are cultivating it and exporting it to them? Organization. We are not organized, that's it. I was reading a book by one of the successful coffee entrepreneurs here in the country. It's called Govt. And he wrote a book, and he wrote a book called The Good, I think the Good African Story, something like that. He had a brand, a coffee brand called the Good African Coffee. And that man was so successful that you'd find his coffee on the supermarket shelves in the UK, in Europe, across Europe. He was that successful. And in his book, one of the things that he points out quite vividly, one is that we don't document, so one person does something, succeeds at it, but other people will not know. So the sector, only that person will succeed, but the sector won't. That was one thing he pointed. But the other is that we are not organized. Now, of course, there's some part of imperialism. There's a part where the EU does not produce as much coffee as they have, as they consume, but they still sort of are the ones who are pulling the shots on how much we are supposed to earn from it. Now, that is one side. But the other is because largely us as Africans, and particularly as Uganda, we are not organized. Now, when you set up a coffee plantation somewhere in your village, you're the person who's doing that, but there's like 3 or 4 people between you and the person who's supposed to buy your coffee. These are those middlemen. Now that value chain, everyone just charges as they wish. Now that lack of organization is why the sector has largely been laid behind.
Okay.
So in that consultation, it was actually a stakeholders consultation, and there was a lot of coffee players in this country, very many of them.
Yeah.
And they were trying to find a way to organize themselves, to sort of also have some sort of a consortium that gets themselves together, because the coffee sector is a very closed one.
Okay.
Everyone does what they can and accesses and goes how far they can. And of course, that is easy to manipulate and to take advantage of, which they have always done. And they were trying to find a position. And it was interesting to be a part of. I wasn't a stakeholder, as one of, as sort of,
An observer?
As an observer, but as working with someone who works for the International Trade Center.
Okay. Before we because this is something pertinent, and why I call the coffee issue pertinent is that aren't we the biggest exporters in Africa for now?
Yeah.
Or second?
I think we should be one of the two.
Yes, because maybe it's either us or Ethiopia.
Yeah.
One of the
Ethiopia
two.
is very big on
the
coffee.
biggest, yeah. But I think Uganda is, because by the time we even, I think, came out of that body that unites all of us, there was something that was giving us that courage to. So we are the biggest producers of coffee on the continent. And but why is it that, or do you think we have harnessed our potential, the profits of our potential in your perspective? Okay, yes, we have not yet reached the processing time of saying we're processing this coffee and selling a finished product. So we are selling a raw material. But do you think with the little that we are doing, are we doing something about our monopoly? Is there something? Is there an advantage that Uganda has, being one of the biggest producers on the continent?
Generally, Uganda has good coffee. And that's a thing everyone appreciates across the world. One of the best places you can get good coffee is Uganda. And in that stakeholders meeting, there was also UCDA, the Uganda Coffee Development Authority. But what I noticed is even the UCDA, which is more like the government entity that sort of oversees this sector, it also does not have that entrenched monopoly over how the sector is run. Now, if you understand, coffee has very, very rich players. Now that becomes easy to sort of bend the rules and go around. Now, I think the reason why we have not gotten anything, even if we are the leading exporter of coffee, is because of that. That because, again, we are not organized, it's easy for another person to come and penetrate and still be able to bend the rules and get the most out of what is ours. And that has been largely the problem. So having been a part of that, I saw how most of the things that we produce, we do not earn from, mostly because of organization. And that even goes for very many things. You have seen what other people call corn, maize, even being denied in the most nearest of markets in our neighboring countries, being denied. But still the problem has been because we are not organized and we are not we do not have standardization processes.
Yes.
That if someone is selling maize or is selling coffee, we understand that these are the standards.
This is where we stop.
This is what we do, and this is how we do it. For example, if you're the one who has like a garden, from the garden, the one who starts, how you use, how you plant, what maybe what support you use. Like
how
that,
you ensure the standard of your product.
Yes, from
it
the
has
ground.
to be there, yes.
Yeah.
Not just from a certain level, but from when the seed is planted. What are the fertilizers you're feeding?
Exactly.
What type of cultivation are you doing? Yeah, I get what you're saying.
The process, the drying, there are some other guys. They have like quite a lot of titles. Some just skip my head. So that the problem is we have not been aware, sensitive to that process to make sure that we have a very refined product. Now, if you have a refined product,
yes, sir,
there will be a good reason that another person will feel like, I need this guy's product. They have a good product. They have processes. They have standards. I can trust their material, their products. So when that is not there, then it means even ourselves, we are not confident to say that we are good at this, that we produce this. And that has been the problem. And that, of course, obviously affects the markets that we can get out there.
Okay, I get. So I understand the dynamics therein. Now I'm looking at what we can do to harness the best out of our coffee, since we are some of the biggest producers. And I'm thinking we need uniting bodies, right? There should be uniting bodies that are bringing together coffee farmers, coffee processors, coffee developers, and things like that. There is need for domestic funding. Do we have even domestic funding? And I want you to elaborate on these issues if they are to work, and in your perspective, as someone who has been following this value chain, and how we can improve it. And maybe there is also an issue of political goodwill, and I want you to start with that. In order for us to get at least anything from our coffee, or anything, in fact, not just coffee, but any product that Uganda does, there has to be the spearheads who are the politicians who are making these policies. In your perspective, do you think our politicians, or there is political goodwill for the maximization of profits from our coffee production as a country?
For politics, I don't think generally, and I don't.
President Museveni has really been.
There's one thing to say.
Apart from the Pineti issue.
Yes, there's one thing to say. This is a good thing. There's also another. It's also another thing to say that this is how we are supporting it, because I think the president appreciates the value of coffee, and I think everyone does. You are seeing the PES ID, the one with Rabogo, and how they've been trying to market, and that's a good thing, and that's a step in the right direction. But I think largely the political will is not just about politics, it's about financing, it's about those processing, it's about sort of lobbying for those markets and making the markets also understand the dynamics here. Because some of the problems, I think, is because it's taking the one-size-fits-all kind of approach.
Yes, sir.
That, for example, if this is the EU market, this is our standard, wherever you're coming from, this is what you should be able to meet. I think that's a good thing for the EU. But the problem is, if you do not put in context the places where these things are coming from, you miss the point. Because you need to understand, you need to go down and understand the dynamics of each place. How Ethiopia processes, and probably the quality of Ethiopian coffee is definitely not the same as Uganda's. What you get, for example, from like the Brazil or South America will definitely not be the same as Uganda's or Africa's in that case. So understanding the context and perspectives where all of this comes from should be important. But now that is where politics comes in. That someone, a leader here, for example, a president or someone who is in charge of the investment minister, or someone like Rabogo, who is, I think, a presidential advisor on investment and trade, are the people who are supposed to go in those spaces and be able to tell them, look, this is a good standard that you have set, but this is how we feed into it. This is how we can contribute to it. I think this and that, as much as we are aiming at that, can we take steps? Can we not just want to jump to the top? Because that is not going to happen. And so it helps us to sort of grow to that instead of just jumping, leaping from here to there. So I think the political will needs to be in those
be
spaces.
encouraged.
Yes.
Yes.
Be in those, inform those processes.
Yeah.
But it also goes to those markets, the EU or even other places, because it's not only EU that consumes coffee, but that all of those places also allows these others to contribute to the processes. Because I think even most of the positions, even when that directive, due diligence directive, was passed in the EU Parliament, I am not very sure that all of the other players were part of the processes and how they reached to those needs for the due diligence directive. So them also having these producers in the loop, being a part of the process, I think would also help, because then you have the context, you know how to work. And I appreciate the idea that the International Trade Center, which is more or less the United Nations, is trying to go to those countries and saying, this is what we need you to do, and this is how you do it, and they are willing to help the process to make sure that the farmers and the companies that are producing and selling coffee can still be able to up their standards. I think that's a step in the right direction. But I think generally for the political will question, I think it goes to the country themselves being proactive and moving out there and engaging those markets.
Fighting for the space.
Yes, fighting for the space. Exactly. Thank you so much. That kind of thing that goes. But also for the other ones to appreciate and realize that these ones need to have a hand in how this process goes.
Okay, thank you so much. That is Council Rogers Tulyahabwe. He is a lawyer, journalist, and also a writer. Council, just a quick one. Is there a funding gap in the coffee industry?
I think there is, but also coffee is purely business. So
I think, okay, funding in my perspective is, do you have funders who are willing to invest in the processing of this coffee? Because there are farmers who are investing in the planting, and I think even Buganda has been pertinent about the coffee campaign. But do we have folks who are there to set up franchises, to set up companies, to set up manufacturing industries that are going to process this coffee, so that we can be like a country like Germany? And if you can highlight on how Germany is harnessing, they're not planters of coffee. I think they're the biggest sellers of coffee.
And they don't plant.
And they don't plant.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm asking myself. How do we address the funding gap, if it is there really? How do we address it in order for us to cope with the folks like Germany?
I think the funding really is in terms of investment and the environment for investment. Largely, I think that is where it lies. Because coffee being a business, for example, there's this organization called Sukafina. It's an international coffee organization, and it's very rich really almost everywhere. And in Uganda we have Uganda Coffee, which is a subsidiary of Sukafina. But the problem with this whole thing is everyone wants to do better on their own.
Yeah. Which is a typical Ugandan characteristic.
It's sort of individualistic.
It's
individualistic, and that's partly why the sector has also not grown. People are keeping quiet on how to do things, and some really know how to do.
That's why there's that gentleman you have talked about who is harnessing from coffee very well, processing it and selling it on the English market, and yet there is another one who cannot even sell anything.
Yeah. So the problem is that individual kind of approach. That if one finds a way to get into the market, they're not so much mindful of how the farmers are progressing, how are they earning in this whole thing, because that's where it begins anyway.
Yes, please.
So them not being able to be a part of the problem is when they get, then they want now to exploit the others to get more profit. And then it becomes about me. And the sector doesn't grow in that sense. That has been largely the problem. If from the book I was reading, The Good African Story, if Uganda'S, for example, had sort of made an alliance with very many other people, it would have made a lot of sense. And maybe the sector would have grown. But another part maybe is of funding is because either our investment portfolios as a country are not very well aligned, or they're not a priority. I think that is one of the problems. Because if you see, for example, Britain is one of the places in the world where you find a good market for coffee.
Yes, that's true. In
but-
fact, also
but-
Europe generally.
But you
Especially Western Europe.
will very rarely move across the UK and find a coffee farm.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, it goes to, again, to organization. It goes to priorities of the country, how the investment, for example, department and ministry is thinking about that and sort of aiding in the process. Because the farmers also themselves can only do so much. At the end of the day, it's how the policies are allowing them. It's how the government is putting policies in place. If we have a country like Uganda, exactly. If you have a country like Uganda, where you will have Pineti come and you decide, you know what, all of you will not. This only one person will be able to sell. Honestly speaking, I do not see how
you're
that
all
affects.
Selling to that one person.
How do you think that one person
you know,
will not?
Rogers, that is happening in different sectors.
Sectors,
in this country.
yes,
It is
absolutely.
happening where there is
Absolutely.
monopoly by one individual, a certain company, but we don't know where it comes from.
Yeah. So for me, that is the problem. And the other is like also I don't think our government and those investment portfolios and ministries, I don't think they also have so much emphasis on the local investors. You'll have people like Jessa. Jessa is a Morana kind of thing.
Yes.
He's a local person, but I do not know how much they have, the government and this country has really supported him. Apart from having the market here, how are they elevating him to be able to sell outside? Because when that brand goes out, it's Uganda going out, it's not Morana. That's just what it is. We have milk here, we have producers of milk and all of that kind of stuff.
In fact, we have an influx of milk in the country.
Exactly.
That we can feed the East African market if we want it.
But how is the country going out to lobby for that milk? To lobby, and most of it is.
But we've done a bit here and there on the milk.
We have tried, but
now we have secured the Algerian market. For our milk. We have secured the Nigerian market for our milk. Don't you think we are diversifying, for lack of a better word?
I think we are making some steps.
But we need to do better.
I think we need to do better. Because one of the places that, for example, I'll give you Kenya. You know, this milk company, what is it called? My goodness.
Fresh Dairy?
No, not Fresh Dairy. There's another company, it's in industrial area here.
Yeah, it's the one that produces Fresh Dairy. It is the one. I'm forgetting the name, but it produces Fresh Dairy.
Okay.
The one that is in the industrial area.
Yeah.
As you turn continuing, going to Bugolobi. It's on the left.
Yes,
it's the Fresh Dairy.
Yes.
Right.
And that company, those guys are literally everywhere. And if you realize, a lot of their milk is on our market. In most of the supermarkets, if you move
and yet we have people who are producing
if you
milk
move around Uganda. As in Nairobi, we worked in some supermarkets. Some really, in the central district, moved around. We were sort of doing a tour. And one of the things was, let us first go and see how many of the Ugandan products are just in our neighboring country, on their market.
Yeah.
And you would very hardly find
a Ugandan product. Exactly.
Very hardly.
When you travel, you will not find a Ugandan. You will seldomly find a Ugandan product.
But that is in our immediate neighboring countries.
Yes.
So if we are not really taking advantage of the markets,
and you come to Uganda here and
look
see the products.
Exactly.
You find the products of other countries. You find Kenya, Nairobi, everywhere here.
On even the smallest of things, and that's why I say
we import very, very small things, by the way. Things we could be doing ourselves.
That's why I say that I do not think our priorities are just clear or aligned. And I think there's just so much we can do. And the truth is we have the potential. The truth is we have the products, those products. The truth is we have people who are doing them so much. People who are producing so much of those things. Okay. The thing is we are not focused on how do we amplify them. On their own capacity, they cannot do so much. They need a hand. And I do not think the investment ministry and the country as a whole has focused on that. If we focused on that, I think, and that would affect a lot of the
economy. And not just
economy.
for the coffee, but we should focus on supporting startups of Ugandans generally. Because I was looking at a statistic that is worrying that not many businesses live to celebrate their first birthday in this country. And I have realized it, even, it's not just on paper. I want you to just look at your neighbors who start up shops, who start up any business around. And you tell me how many of them celebrate their first day.
Most
You
of them
realize that
don't.
Most of them go for 3.
Most of them don't. Eventually, they can.
months,
They do,
4
because
months.
now they have done on their own. They have not received any help.
But we are
They
not.
can only manage for so long. Eventually, it's going to crumble. Was it last week? The other week, I was seeing on the news, as somewhere it wasn't around. On the news, there's this news network WION, and was it CNN? Was it Al Jazeera? Another one. They were talking about some Ugandan company, it's a startup, that are turning banana fiber
Yes.
into like they would make fiber out of those banana stuff, and you can use to do mats, to do all of, even
thread them
clothes.
around, yes,
Yeah, those
I've
things.
heard of them.
It was so much on that market. I searched, honestly speaking, on our local news networks, how many of them had that
Thank you
news
so much.
put out,
Yeah.
and I couldn't find
They
any
don't
one of them.
document successful stories.
So,
That's
and
the
that is
problem.
part of
And now
the
let me
problem.
tell you, Rogers, we are having this conversation right now. There is someone who's waiting for us to talk about politics.
course.
Someone is finding this conversation about coffee not relevant in any way. And that's the saddening part of this country. That do we want to talk about things that are working, or do we just want to make news? I think we should talk about things that are working.
I mean,
You'll add from
okay.
there, because it's time to break now. My name is Edgar, Mathew Karuhanga. I'm still with Tulyahabwe. He is a lawyer, a writer, and a journalist. We have been talking about the coffee industry of this country and how better it can be made. When we come back from the break, Rogers will be just summarizing on that issue, but there's still more to talk about. There is a company that is fighting disinformation in this country. We're trying to talk about things that are working. We don't just want to talk about politics every day, because we realized our politicians sometimes are taking us for a rough ride. How do we find solutions for ourselves? That is why Digitalk TV is here. We go for a short commercial break. When we come back, we'll be touching base on guys that are fighting disinformation. There's also some things that are happening in Parliament. Of course, the Israel-Gaza war that is going on there, and of course, other stories that are making the news this morning. At just 2 minutes to the top of the hour, let's go for a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanya now, recorder. Did you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we change our habits for the world?
And it starts with me and you.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk.
Are you craving for that special meal that will entice your taste buds and leave you with lasting, thrilling memories? Look no further. Spice Island Bulenga has got your answer. Natural, fresh and delicious juice, the best meals. Don't miss our daily specials from Monday to Sunday. Pizza Wednesday, Saturday Pizza Bonanza, you buy one and take two. Come dine with us and feel the experience. We are located at Prime Shopping Center in Bulenga, Mitiana Road. For inquiries, call us on 0704111720. Spice Island, we treat your cravings.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Welcome back from that short commercial break, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Edgar Karuhanga. 2 minutes past 9 p.m. We are into the second and final hour of this particular show. So you can send in some of your messages. I'll be reading them subsequently as we continue with this production. Rogers, by the time we went for a short commercial break, we were finishing up on coffee, and I think let's call it done and dusted on that issue. I want to delve back into things that young people are innovating in this country. A group from Debunk Media Initiative has innovated an app that is fighting disinformation and false information in the public domain. For the benefit of our Uganda viewers, wali abaana ab'ekitongole kye bayita Debunk Media Initiative ekyewaddeyo kubanga kirwanisa amawulire amakyamu. Kino nno kyalonchinze kyewaliise Debunk Info Verifier app. Ngeno app egenda kuyamba mu kulwanisa amawulire agaba nga si matuufu. Weesanga amawulire amakyamu esobola okugadetectinga era ne basobola okuba nga bagadebunkinga. Osobola obuuza app eno ekibuuzo kyonna ky'oyagala n'esobola okuba nga ekiddamu mpola mpola. Eno app teneba kubanga iggwa entirely, naye batandise okuba nga prototype ey'okubiri yafulumye. So that means esobola okukola essaawa zino, naye buli webeekola bagenda bagiimprovinga mpola mpola nga tekinologi yawaatera okukola. Mwabamanyi AI engeri gyekolamu ne technology nti buli lunaku ogenda ogifuula beta, egenda eyiga learninga, netandika processing data, ne processing information, ne understanding patterns eziri mu information yeyo paka weekola sense out of that information, and this takes what we call programming and time. Rogers, mundaba yoloza tunasobola okuba nga tulwanisa amawulire amakyamu mu ngeri eno.
First off, amawulire ngago let me just go to English.
It's okay, come on.
So the news, I think one actually of the most important things is information. And you have very often had that phrase of information is power, information is power. And when we come on this show every day, we say we are here to, especially when you give updates, to tell you, we are here to tell you what is going on around your community. Yes. So that helps you make informed decisions about what you do. Now, information literally drives every single thing we do, whether that is food, whether that is education, even if it's just in the economy and the market. Everything, every single thing, our lives literally run on information. So as an individual, I think that is a very good initiative. And I hope that it gets the support it needs. Because again, as you talked earlier, a lot of startups find issues maintaining and managing that process. Because very often, most of these initiatives do not get funded or something like that. Yes. So I think one, information is good, it needs to be verified, because there's that misinformation and disinformation. I think misinformation is where just for clarity, someone I think shares some information without the knowledge of its authenticity in regard to truthfulness, if it's a fact or not. Disinformation, on the other hand, is where someone peddles false news just intended for a particular objective or something. Yes. And that happens a lot, especially in like politics and governance related stuff. Now it becomes easy if we do not have such platforms to debunk those informations. It becomes easy for someone to just throw around whatever they want the people to consume, and the people will consume
and
it.
they will manipulate them.
The people will consume it. If, for example, you're talking about you're in the season, let's say, of elections, like we are moving towards 2026, it becomes easy for someone to put out anything they feel like their people need to listen to. Because there's one thing to say what people want and to say another thing, to say what people want to hear. Doesn't necessarily mean that is the truth. So what I think about this initiative is that it will help a lot in that, but I also hope that it gets the publicity it requires. Because for it to also be helpful and useful, it is so that everyone knows that if there is an information and I am not sure about its authenticity, there's a place I can get that credibility to know that this is true, this is not true. So that is one thing, and I hope that the people who are behind this initiative do so much to make sure that it penetrates, that people know that it is there.
Okay, lastly, do you think people in Uganda, especially Ugandans, have they valued the position of debunk? Or, okay, do we know the gravity as a country, the gravity of false information? You hinted on that, but it feels you know it as an individual. Do you think Ugandans have appreciated the gravity of false information and what it can do? One,
I do not. First of all, the biggest problem, and I remember we had a conversation here about it with some military general who is also a seasoned journalist. Uganda has a problem of zero research. We have a low research culture. And research really, at the fore of research, is information and truthfulness of information, not just information. Now, for someone, if, for example, you're not a person who is keen to research, whatever you find there, a debunk may not be useful because you're not going to think, is it true? So you're just going to go ahead with it. Exactly, information. You go ahead with it, and that's a problem. Now, one problem we have is that research. We do not have, we have a bad mindset about information and verification information at that. So as an individual, Ugandans are not good at that. I use Twitter. It's one of the platforms I sort of am on. And Twitter has a lot of excited people. Very excited, especially young ones.
Yes.
So excited, so much so, especially even if it's on any sector. Even if it's politics, if someone is supporting a particular individual and that individual says anything, you take it for gospel truth. And excitedly you share that information.
And the problem is you also don't want to tell you that it is false.
That's a thing.
You already have a preconceived mindset.
Excitement is one problem we have, so we do not take time to think, is this really true? Because I can have you, Edgar, you are my friend and all of that. But it doesn't mean that anything you do or say is the truth or is one thing I should believe in.
Exactly.
I should be in position to tell you, Edgar, that is not true. As much
and
as
I don't hate you.
And it's not about you. It's about
but it's about the information you are giving.
Exactly.
You're misleading.
And that's a problem we have. We have excited people, especially young people, very excited. Two, we have a problem of likes.
Cliques. We're in a generation of cliques that has brought about what we call celebrity journalism.
Exactly. So if anything is very likely to get me followed or liked information and all of that, I will share it. Whether it's true or not, I'll put it out there. Besides, it will put my name out there. I've seen a lot of guys, there are a lot of, especially on Twitter, Ugandan young people.
They say publicity is publicity, whether good or bad, it's still publicity.
It's publicity, exactly. So, and many of them will just, you'll just scroll on the timeline, on their timelines, and you realize most of what they share is not exactly information, first of all, and it's not news, second, and third, no one should really care. But everyone will care because it's either funny or it promotes a particular individual who most people seem to like, something like that. And in the midst of that, credibility is lost.
Exactly.
And that's one of the problems I think we have. So if we are going to be able to move past that, to know that I can agree with, for example, a political player, or I can agree with an entrepreneur, I should be in position to know that what they're saying is true, and I should be able to verify it. And that is where the debunk comes in. That if you know, we are not saying what your people are saying is wrong. We're just saying, please make sure it is the truth.
Okay.
And the only way to make sure it is the truth is to verify it. If you do not know how to verify information yourself, if you can't do research, the platform is there. The initiative Debunk is there. You go to the app, post about the particular information, ask if that is credible, and you'll get the answer. If you don't do that, we are going to be in the same loop. That's the problem why we have sad people. You have very many, like someone is popular on TikTok and YouTube and Twitter and all of that. In person, no one knows them.
Zero.
No one knows them.
Thank you so much.
So as an individual, what I would like to implore Ugandans,
yes, sir.
first is to focus on research. Be big on research, guys. Find out if something is true, even if it's said by your boss. Make sure what they're saying is a fact. I understand you believe in them and you trust them.
And you love them
and
so
you love
much.
them very
And
much.
you said
And
they never saw
do,
here.
hey, and please do go ahead to love them and trust them and all of that. But please make sure what they're telling you is the truth.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Thank you so much. 12 minutes past 11 and it's 12 minutes past 9 a.m. So in case for those who want to just look out for this app, you can just go to the Play Store, Debunk app, or you can call it Debunk Info Verifier app. You'll be able to see it. In case you want to know more about how it's used, you can check it through. It has a newsroom there in, it has a fact checks there in, it has a home interface. You can just check it out. It has, I think, orange color and the word debunk. You'll be able to see it in the App Store. For those who just want more clarity, look for this organization. They are called Debunk Media Initiative Uganda. So you can look for their website. It's at debunkinitiative.org, or you can look through their social media platforms, Debunk Media Initiative, or you can just put in the word The Debunk Show. You will see these group of young journalists who are automating fact checks, who are producing fact checks, who are producing explainers, audios, videos, who are training journalists and students in verifying information. There's a lot that you'll be able to find there in. Let's go to the other issue on the menu, Rogers, and this one is kind of tricky, but we shall still go with it. President Museveni refuses to start up an education institute that is in remembrance of the former president of Uganda, Idi Amin Dada. This was a proposition. There should be an education center or institute in remembrance of the good side of Amin, or in remembrance of Amin as Ugandan, as a president who served this country between 1971 to 1979. The president says Amin's government was unconstitutional, which is true, because he just took power in such a way he did, and he did whatever he did. But do you think Amin does not deserve to be remembered? In fact, as we're speaking today, his body has never been returned to Uganda.
Okay, for one, I think, everyone deserves to be remembered, because even at his time, the truth is he also didn't do a lot of good things, but so has everyone else who has been president. Every one of them has done a lot of ugly things, but they have also done good things, including Amin himself. And I would be, honestly speaking, I would say that Amin is one of the most patriotic leaders we have had as this country. He was brutal.
Keyword patriotic.
Yes, he was brutal. He probably was as ruthless at some point, just as much as everyone else who has been the president of this country, by the way. But I also think his patriotism was that as a country, how about us? How in the grand scheme of things, how do we fare? How do we fare?
How does Uganda stay afloat?
Yes, exactly. And quite honestly, I do not know about the fact that President Museveni saying that, as his government was not legitimate because he took power. I do not know how did ours, the one that is existing, the current administration, come? So should we say that this one is also unconstitutional? Is it
but
legitimate?
It is not, by the way.
No, if that is the perimeter.
So that the defense of, I'm not going to say president, but the NRM diehards, is that this one, he was fighting for the people.
That's what Amin also said.
Exactly, because when Amin took power in 1971, on the 25th of January, many people flocked the streets of Kampala in hululations and jubilations that, hey, we had got
finally,
everybody, people were happy when Amin came. So we would say that the people wanted Amin to come, like how the people wanted Museveni to come.
I think most people have judged, for the Asian question, Indians, particularly. Asians, let's take it as that. I think most people have judged his work based on that one decision that he made to chase all of them out of Uganda. And economy-wise, maybe let's say it wasn't the best idea at the time. But he also had a position he was basing on. He could have done it better. That may not have been the best way to do it. But maybe instead of castigating him for having done it that way, even if it was a wrong way, we maybe should have understood why he was doing it in the first place.
What was the spirit behind
when you go about around the world, you will find some places that literally are taken up and over by other people. And that's a thing we should be open to speaking about. I understand and I respect globalization. I understand that anyone should be able to live anywhere in the world, and they have a right to do so for that matter. First of all, I don't believe in boundaries, that this is Uganda, that is Kenya, this is so, this is so. At the end of the day, we are all people and we should be able to live
they were put on us by certain white folks who divided our continent.
And so I don't believe in that. I believe that everyone should be able to live everywhere. But when you have done that, also respect the fact that if you have decided that certain people should live in this boundary, those people should have a say on how that boundary is led.
But if they are having a say in a brutal and cruel way,
yes, they should also be called out on that. So I think the president, had made, let's say, that was a mistake, but everyone else has done mistakes, including our current administration.
Does he have does Mr. Museveni have the moral authority
to call
question
the legitimacy of the other government? I do not think so. Of the administration, I do not think he does. As an individual, I don't think, because literally the same way the other one came is the same way this one came. But also for the side of setting an education center or institute, whatever they want to do, as an individual.
They wanted, because now it is out of question, it can't be done.
Even before out of the question, I think the consideration should have, even for President Museveni, the consideration should have been on what is the substance of that. Because I don't think we should just put out anything for the sake of its name. I think what should have been the focus is what is the substance of that? What is it that is going to solve? How is that? What is the value addition? What is the value of that? It's not just about Amin as a president.
In your perspective, is there any value that Amin and his remembrance adds to the country? Because every time you talk about Amin, Uganda has been notorious for Amin. Even right now, 2023, you travel to a different country and you find folks who know Uganda, they know Amin. They don't know anything else. They still even ask, is Amin still alive? I don't know if Kwe would be Isa or creating jazz, but that question is very, very common, especially for people who travel.
No, the thing is, when you go out of Africa especially, Amin is seen as that thing because he stood up to most of the things that colonialists were doing. That's the truth. That's a fact. He challenged a lot of, he shook a lot of tables.
Literally everything.
And in their world, that is not the right person, that's not a good person. You know how they say bad guy.
But
that's a bad guy.
They say when you're good to Africa, you're bad to them.
To them. So that is what you will find. That's a narrative out there. But
and the one who's good to them,
it's not exactly good
for Africa.
Exactly. You will, for example, you will move out. You will find people talking about people like Gaddafi. Gaddafi is one of the people who represent the African continent. Or
patriotism.
Yes, or represented. Truth is, he may not have done all the good things, but he did a lot good than bad. But you will not find that narrative out there. That will only stay in the borders of Africa. So I really don't care what people out there say even about Amin. I do not really give a damn, as people say these days. I just hope they would look at our people down here, would think about those people, not in the sense of how much bad they did, but also about how much good they also did.
But there was bad that was done.
There was, but there was also good that was done.
Because many people lost their lives in Amin's time.
Yes.
You remember...
how many people have lost lives in this administration, for example? The difference is, in the time of Amin, the other people had a lot of hand then than now. And it was easy then to peddle that narrative that this is the baddest guy that has ever lived. And now, as much as they still have a hand in our affairs, they do not control so much of the flow as they did then. Now, that means that the information and a lot of bad that is happening now may not go so far because it can now be controlled because they have some bit of authority. Then, they had literally had control over how information flows and what you believe and all of that kind of nonsense. So it doesn't mean that he's the one who has done the worst. There's a lot of people who have done the worst, and we know them, that's the truth. But we don't want to talk about them because they control how much we can talk. Okay, as an individual, I think Amin has been judged very harshly. And if we put the parameters they have judged him to all of the other people who have also led this country, I don't think he would be the worst we've had.
Let's talk about
I think he would fare with others.
Let's talk about the person of Museveni, Mr. President. Him coming out to outrightly say we cannot remember this individual because of this and this reason. Isn't this gentleman, what should I say, selling or purporting a politics of divisionism and a politics of identity that he has always made? A politics of, not just identity really, but a politics of lack of, what should I say, lack of understanding, a politics of radicalism, a politics of intolerance. Isn't this politics of intolerance that Mr. Museveni is peddling? From where I see it, I don't think I see it that way. Because there are people who loved Amin. There are people who worked with Amin, who served with Amin. Yeah. And there are people who really, Henry Chamber, recently, he criticized Amin, but he was there in his government. I want you to just talk about that, because whereas someone is bad, he still has a good he did, and he still has the followers, he still has family members, he still has friends, he still has a lineage of people who believed in him, and to doing a politics of intolerance like we've always done, like how Museveni is abusing, who is looking down at Amin, Obote looking down at Amin, now Museveni looking down at Obote. Everybody who's taking the other person's power ceases to not even want this other person to be remembered. In fact, when you start to talk about Uganda, it feels like Uganda started in 1986. I cannot entirely speak to what Museveni based on to refuse the proposal, because I am not alive to that fact. But for one thing, I want to understand two sides. One, it's the truth is also, I mean, did bad things, but he also did good things. Yes. Just as everyone else. Like all of us. Like all of us. Yes, exactly. And I do not think the refusal of that proposal should have been based on this guy did that or they did not do that. Constitutional government. Yes, I don't think that as an individual, in my opinion, I think that is not a place you really come from. Because even there has been some mistakes even in the current administration. Just what I think is still, again, I do not think that anything should just come about because it's in the name of a past president. I think the focus should have been even to decide whether it should have stayed or moved. What is the value addition of this thing? What is it adding to us? If it shouldn't be that even the people who are bringing it, they shouldn't bring it in a sense of, look, this has been a president and this is the least we can do for his name. It should have been that as a country, one or two things are going amiss and this is how we can solve it. But we thought that maybe as we solve that problem, we should also honor the name of some person who has been a president of this country at some time. So the focus should not have been just on the name. It should have been on the value of the proposition. So the people who are bringing it themselves, I have a feeling, I am not alive to very many facts, I have a feeling that it was just about the name. It wasn't about the substance of the solution, the value. Yeah, like no, someone did not even look at the idea itself. Yes. They looked at, so if anything is coming from we don't want to know. Yeah, it both ways. The people who are bringing, I feel like it was just about the name. And the people who refused it,
refused, may have refused also on the line of
the name.
This is the name.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So who are you remembering? This person that you're remembering here.
And why are you remembering should have been the
that
focus,
is the
not
biggest,
the person.
Yes, I know.
So it's for both ways for me. That maybe the president did not consider that, and maybe he should have considered the value addition of the proposition, but also the people who are proposing it should not have focused on the name alone.
No,
They
but
should
I
have
think
focused
that
on
that was the
value.
main. You see, when you grow, you start to realize that some things people do things not entirely to win. Some people do things to expose. I think the person who was behind, and this is my personal opinion, I think the person behind this idea wanted to just expose what this government thinks about about Idi Amin Dada. And now it's going to be on record that
But
one time they wanted to remember Amin, and the sitting president at the time said we cannot.
But the sitting president has really literally been open about his feelings.
By the way, he has always been open. He has called him names and names and names and names.
So I mean, except maybe
that
they wanted
brings
it
me
on
back
record.
to a gentleman, the person of the president. In one of his books, it shows that President Museveni felt Amin was wrong from the onset.
Yeah.
As the whole world was happy. The following day, on the 26th, Museveni launched a war against Mr. Amin. Amin takes power on the 25th. This person on the 26th feels now, Amin, you don't know.
But I think part of it was also some level of elitism.
Yes, that's the thing. Because I think they looked down at
yes.
Amin's intellect and level of education.
For me, as an individual, what I think is that might have been probably because he felt, Amin is not educated enough to be a leader of this country. We can do better. And for that matter, I'm going to do whatever is in my power to put an end to that.
And he actually did.
And he did. So part of it might have been that, not necessarily because let me tell you, there are people who have also led countries. And what has saved those countries has had nothing really to do with the education of the leader.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, what the leader does is just to give direction. What do you think? I don't think you need to go to school to know where you think a country should go. But there are people who are technocrats who will go down to details of how those things will work.
In fact, the president does not need to be that professional. The technocrats are the ones
who are supposed to do that work. At the end of the day, it's not about how wise you are as a leader. And I'll give you one thing. I am one person who has been a fan of one of the presidents of the US. And if you are my friend, you'll definitely know that is. I have been a fan of that gentleman. But when you do research, you realize that a great deal of what he did was speech and very less about actions. But that's all he had to do. At the end of the day, he's just a political figure and all he has to do is speak. Exactly. That's all. Tell people, look, I think this is how we should go.
The
what
vision.
do you think? Yes, the vision, exactly. Give the vision, give the direction. The breakdown of that vision.
The implementers are the technocrats.
Exactly. So even for, I think it was also, again, misjudging him from the onset to think that his level of education should have been the focus of the leadership of the country.
Though when you say that, I feel then it was also maybe a bias on his side as Amin, because Amin killed a lot of technocrats. So to some extent, he wanted to prove a point that he could do better than them. At a time when, you see, at that time, being enlightened was the thing. So there were few Ugandans who had gone to school, few Ugandans who had attained a decent education. So at a time when Amin is coming, Amin feels, yes, he also feels already biased because he knows he has a weakness, he has a gap in education, in his education background. And then there are technocrats who feel we are smarter than this guy. So, and he ended up killing a lot of technocrats. That's why when you realize in Amin's government, he did not kill a lot of civilians. No, he killed a lot of technocrats, the so-called judges, the lawyers. You see those professionals.
Those people,
at their time.
Yeah. I as an individual, I still think that he did a lot of mistakes as an individual. But the idea of our president saying that, you know what, his education was the basis of fighting him, that I feel like was a misjudgment. Still, Because again, the leaders just direction.
Sour Rogers.
What do you think? How do you sell it to people? And let the people who are skilled in that take charge.
Okay, let's cross over to Parliament. Joe Rogers, a new position for the Assistant Deputy Speaker of Parliament. What's up? No, I understand the basis and the background is that the Speaker, Anita Among, gave birth recently, and she's entitled to a 2 months leave. That is constitutional. So it feels like maybe Thomas Tayebwa cannot do a rigorous Monday to Friday for 2 months. They will need an Assistant Deputy Speaker of Parliament.
That's the problem is we find solutions to very temporary problems. Because how long is Among being?
That's what I'm saying. So 2 months.
That's very temporary. And then when the Speaker comes back, what do? Do you fire now the Assistant Deputy? Because I mean, at this time there is enough manpower. There are 2 people. They are going to run the house as they always have. Therefore, we don't need the assistant. Do we then fire them? Yeah,
because now I don't understand. So because this is just 60 days.
So
Anita will be back in Parliament.
Even if it were 5 months.
Even
if it were 5 months, the House, we have the Speaker, we have the Deputy Speaker. That House has a lot of committees, and each committee is concerned about the affairs of each ministry, of each sector, of each department. Those committees are the ones that literally do the work of Parliament. I do not know why. Maybe, I mean, I might be naive. I do not know exactly how Parliament is run. And I am not alive to how much work, for example, the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker have on their plate. But I also think that a Deputy Speaker can manage for 2 months or 5 months or even a year for the Speaker to come back. Because I'd never had that come up before.
This is the thing. That's what I'm saying. So the Rebecca Kadagas of this world, the Secondis of this world. So it's just because now we have Anita. That's when it becomes a problem. From the 1960s when we had the Ugandan Parliament, it has
I think we are just using the situation of the Speaker as an excuse. I think what people are doing is they are trying to peddle their people into the House. Because even if that goes through, the people who will come in, I very much doubt that it will be on merit. I really doubt, I so much do. At the end of the day, it's going to be who is coming in and who do they know. So it will be just about providing a space for another person, but I don't think it's necessary. But also more than that, it's also another way to peddle influence. That the person who's coming in will be able to offer another hand to influence that house for another person's benefit. As an individual, first of all, I don't think that is necessary to begin with. But a lot of what is being done speaks to what our priorities are as a country.
And I feel it also speaks of the reactionary kind of mode that we have always had of we're just reacting. Now she has given birth to twins. Now let's bring an Assistant Deputy Speaker. Now, okay, I know the Constitution is amended according to the times and the seasons of that particular time. Yeah. But I feel there are some times and seasons that do not really need a lot of amendment.
It's temporary. It's temporary. You can't amend a constitution for 2 weeks.
You see, people have constitutions. You look at the United States. Even the number of amendments made, they are known. This is the 6th Amendment, the 5th Amendment, the 7th Amendment. They're not even more than 12. So people have had a democracy of more than 300 years. But the amendments they've made to our constitution, they know it. They have counted the amendments. In Uganda, we just amend anything, as long as it suits.
Yeah, no, for this particular position, honestly, I don't think that is necessary. Sooner or later, an MP will feel like, you know what, I need an assistant MP.
Thank you so much.
A clerk of parliament will feel like I need an assistant. Heck, the guard at the entrance of parliament will feel like, you know what.
And we're having a conversation of reducing.
A driver of an MP will feel like I need an assistant.
And we're having a conversation of.
Before you know it, we have 1,000 or 2,000.
We have to even reduce the number there. And I hope that the amendments, that the constitutional amendments that Norbert Mao is bringing, especially to suit the electoral process and everything, I think these should be some of the amendments. 529 members of parliament is too much.
And while we still have a conversation of amending the number of MPs, we are adding more people to the House.
Thank you.
I do not know how that
The irony, that's what I'm saying. It's the irony that we're trying to fight the numbers in parliament. Ironically, we're adding numbers.
For me, I don't think that is necessary at all. I do not see the need for it. It's a very temporary situation, one we can do with. Even if the work is overwhelming for the Deputy Speaker right now, I think the Deputy Speaker still has a staff. The office of the Speaker has staff. That staff is there purposely to support the work of the Speaker and the Deputy Speaker, the office of the Speaker as a whole.
Okay.
So I do not think that we should wake up and decide, you know what, since this is happening, I need a deputy, a whole house now, because that's another office altogether, the office of the Assistant Deputy Speaker
Of
Parliament. That's a whole office, and that's a whole resource. I think it's not necessary. The support staff is enough to be able to handle those
Because
issues.
really it's just
For
about
the time
I
being.
think that issue was just about the plenary, because the only time we need a speaker, okay, an active speaker is during the plenary discussions. They're on the floor of parliament. So in case Taiwa is not around, there should be someone who's going to be able to chair the sittings of parliament. But let's delve into just the, what is happening in parliament these days. The opposition has been vocal about issues that are happening there, in the abductions of people, and they're saying that if parliament is not working on what we are doing, we are going to get out. So they stormed out of parliament recently. They've not been attending the parliamentary plenary. Yes, they are working on the committees, but it feels like the opposition has stood their ground. They're saying they're not going to return back to the August House, not until there is something changed. And ironically, the parliament is still continuing. Tulyahabwe is making government business and resolutions
No,
with members of parliament from the NRM side.
I think the problem I see is, first of all, now the parliament is not even about the members. The problem has become that our administration has had a big head, so much so that it doesn't matter what you believe. If you're opposition, it doesn't matter. Even if you're in
And there is no shame.
the ruling government, because I've had people very dissatisfied from the ruling party itself, dissatisfied with very many things and how business is conducted in very many ways, but they will not be able to speak. My problem has been that the MPs themselves who, and I know it is probably dangerous, but the ones who would have put up a fight are resigning to it. Because if you walk out of that parliament, what happens then? If the parliament is going to continue, then what happens?
That's the thing. No, I feel because they thought it would not continue, because it's abnormal. Really, in normal circumstances, for the whole opposition to do a massive exodus and they get out of parliament, and you continue business as usual. You know the opposition is not there. That means you know there are many Ugandans that are not represented there, but you continue to make government business and you're okay with it.
One thing, the idea that the MPs themselves, because they have also done those strikes quite a lot, I do not know if that is the last option they have. If it is the last option,
because they feel that's the last option.
If
that's
it is
why,
the last,
that's
and
what
I
they're
think,
saying.
I think we
They
should.
have said
be,
they have exhausted all other options, but the problem is, and I want you to comment on this as you're commenting on that, that the members of NRM, or some of the members of NRM, think these folks are looking for publicity. It's a publicity
like
stunt.
political stunts.
Like they're doing political stunts. And they're saying those people just want cameras, blah, 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 and things like that. So I don't know where is the thin line. Are even these opposition members just trying to...
I think it's two ways. One, I think maybe, because opposition was also done a lot of funny things for publicity, pulling political stunts. So sometimes it's hard to tell if what they are doing is genuine or not. But even be that as it may, I think it's very erroneous and very dangerous at that for a whole house to continue without the members of parliament. Besides, at the end of the day, the members of parliament are the ones who determine how business is run, how that arm of government is run. It's not about the speaker, it's not about the deputy speaker. And I don't know why those guys feel like they're the alpha and omega in that house. I do not know. at the end of the day, there are also MPs, there are people who can be replaced any moment for any reason. So I think it's very absolutely, and setting a very wrong precedent to say that the House will continue whether or not the opposition is on board or not. I think that's a very, very wrong precedent that we are setting. And honestly speaking, I want to judge it on the leadership of Parliament. I entirely, the members of Parliament, if we are being, and I think I want us to also be kind to those people, because they have also been taken through a lot of mud for doing certain things, so much so that they also have had sometimes to resort to very petty approaches. But this one, even if it's petty, even if it were petty,
respect it.
I think it's important. I think it's important for the House to sit and say, what do you want? How do you want us to solve this problem? And then the discussion then becomes the ways to solve the problem, as opposed to you guys, what are you saying? I think it's a very wrong precedent. It's a very petty one. It's a problem of leadership of
How
that
do we
house.
bring back sanity to that
It's
house?
a problem.
Do you think when there is change in leadership, there will be sanity? Because I want you to juxtapose this parliament with the parliament of 1996, the parliament of the John Kazoras, with the parliament of 2001, the parliament that impeached the Sam Kutesas, the parliament that impeached, what's his name, the Minister for Defense? Yeah, Major General who?
The current
minister. No, that was Minister of Internal Affairs. Minister of Defense, Jim
Muhwezi, yes.
The parliament that censured Jim Muhwezi. The parliament of the Miriam Matembes. That parliament of the John Kazoras. A parliament that used to speak, and there would be something. How do we come back to that parliament? Do you think when we solve the leadership question, which many people have addressed, I think, and I also think there is a leadership question there in the leaders, something is there's something missing therein. And I'm saddened that Olanya, we did not get to see the fruit of Olanya, the time of his leadership, because he had started to bring back quality. Okay, he had started to champion quality in debate. And that was something he was talking about. We need to bring back quality of debate. And you can see that that is the basis. Okay, it's not the basis, but one of the issues of making this parliament better, or some of the ways of making this parliament better. So the question is, how do we bring back that parliament of 1996-2001?
It's just to have the institutions work. That's it.
Yeah.
Because even the questions that the opposition MPs are doing, are having, they have the questions they want addressed, are questions that institutions have refused to work on.
Yes.
The opposition party, for example, NUP, has always said they want just to know where the missing people are. Even if they are incarcerated or whatever, we just want to know where they are. All their families need is closure, to know these are here, or if someone died, they move on. And that's a problem that Parliament has refused again and again to address.
Does Parliament have the power?
Parliament has the power to ask questions.
No, but they have asked questions in the past, and we have seen nothing. Like,
the way to have...
give you an example, and I want you to also comment on this. Nabanja comes off and says she knows where Kibalama is. 4 years down the road, she doesn't know where Kibalama is. We have not yet seen Kibalama. We have not... Nobody knows where Kibalama is.
And the problem is...
And the Prime Minister owned it.
Let me tell you,
so do you think when the leader of opposition says that the blood of Kibalama is on your hands, and the Prime Minister feels angry, and do you think do you think this is a valid statement? Or do you think does Nabanja need to be pinned? Because Nabanja is saying you people are pinning me for nothing. But yet she came out and it's on record, she said they had Kibalama.
I don't want to speak to that again, because I mean, again, that's a problem of institutions not working. Because if institutions are working, and if when she made that statement, she would have had to prove it. Where is this man? And the institutions would have to, even if it's what is this commission, the Uganda Human Rights Commission, it would have invited this woman, said, you said, so and so, you know where they are. Where are they? You prove your statements. But when it's not working, the speaker will come to the floor. I saw the other day the clip, the Prime Minister the whole lead of government business, will come to the floor and start pointing fingers and tell people, you repeat it again, or
She was very angry.
oh, you are stupid, or you are
In
this.
fact, it
or
felt
you
like that's why the opposition said that in case you had a gun, you would have shot me.
Exactly.
And the truth is, if you looked at how she entered and the anger she had,
the demeanor,
the demeanor really.
that's the thing about institutions. Quite honestly, if it was working, I do not think even a speaker herself would sometimes act the way she does sometimes. Because there also are times I feel like she has acted unprofessionally. But because, I mean, I am the one in charge and there are no ways to address some of these things, professional conduct, they still go away with it.
But you see now
and that sets precedent to every other institution of government.
But it's growing, Rogers. That's the challenge. It's growing. You remember Kinyamatama and
Zake.
Okay, Kinyamatama was making an issue and trying to make an issue.
And she was right.
But the way she was making the issue also.
Yeah. But I also think Zake has become a chronicle, indisciplined person. I think he's doing something
But
terribly wrong.
you also have to look at the circumstances under which they call someone indisciplined. Because you realize...
No, they mishandle them.
There is a politics that we dub indisciplined. I have realized that this country has when you show a certain kind of face, they dub you a certain way for trying other untried means, or for going maybe the harder way. For being assertive, you are called indisciplined.
No. Let's not.
Zake has been assertive.
He has been, but sometimes he has been indisciplined. And I don't want us to overlook that. The truth is, he has been treated badly. We know that there's differential treatment in that house. There are people who are treated that way, and there are people who are treated differently. And he has been treated badly in a lot of instances, very many instances. But I want us also to not overlook the fact that that man is indisciplined. I had the clip when that man was talking about Kinyamatama. I do not think any member of parliament deserves to be called honorable when they can say something like that about their colleague. I think that is totally different. And I think that's a conduct that needs to also go to a disciplinary committee. Honestly speaking, that was very unprofessional for a member of parliament. But I also am alive to the fact that sometimes they say those things because they are frustrated by how they are treated.
Because Zake's ribs have been broken, Zake's spinal cord has issues even up to today.
Exactly. So
it's like when people call Kakweza really indisciplined, wouldn't you condone the indiscipline of Kakwenza?
I mean, I
under the circumstances.
I may not, depending on the situation. He was treated very badly. But I also think there's sometimes there are civil ways to do things. Doesn't always
the
mean
thing is this: you want to deal with someone in a civil way, which I understand, which is the way that we have been trained to take. But what do you want to tell him? Okay, I want to sit in his shoes. I want to sit in the shoes of Bobby Wine, whose driver Kayiwa has been shot dead, whose friends have been shot, and it's been on record. You look at Zake, he has been beaten, he has been tortured, and it's on record. You look at Kakwenza, he has... when you look at his back and you expect him to speak civility to someone who has done that.
Let me ask you, Edgar. I want you, and I'm very glad you brought out Bobby Wine. I want you to compare those two people, Bobby Wine and this member of parliament, Zake. I want you to compare those two. Has Zake been treated very badly more than Bobby Wine has been?
No.
Has Bobby Wine spoken the way this man has?
No.
Do you think there's a problem of discipline somewhere?
Yes, I do believe.
So the thing is, the truth is they have been treated badly. That's the truth. And if it were possible, and again, if instructions were working, those issues should have been addressed.
Rogers, you have seen how this government can treat people.
Yes, I have.
And please accept me speak that you've been tortured by this government.
I have.
Before.
I have.
You have.
I have, but the problem is,
if someone has the authority to speak about this, it should be you.
I have. And that's the thing. The problem is, fire does not put out fire. And at the end of the day, the other people have the means. How do you find ways to get what you want without necessarily going head on, because that's a battle you're going to lose, and you know very well.
So what is that on their side? Is that discipline? Is that good civil politics?
No. You taking
Chibalama and
that's
and
not
other
right.
people
I'm not saying that is right. What I'm saying is the problem is how they are doing, you can't do the same. Because you're going to lose that battle, and everyone knows very well that you're going to lose that battle. That's just open. What you have to do is just know how smart can I get what I want from this space without doing what they are doing, because that is not going to get you anywhere. I'm not saying I understand why they are outrageous. I understand why they are mad. Sometimes I understand why they speak the way they do. But the problem is it's not going to get you what you want. It's not going to get you anywhere. If anything, it's going to kill you, much less. So how do you get what you want?
Okay.
That should be the question. And doesn't mean you should be disciplined. It's not going to help.
So what should the
It's going to portray you as...
So what should the opposition
Because
do?
even the people in the opposition...
When they walk out of parliament, that is not going to help them. When they go to the ICC...
I think walking out of
when
parliament...
When they go to the ICC, you some scholars and political commentators say ICC is going to do nothing. It is just a backing door.
Because ICC does not have enforcement.
When they stage protests, you don't want them to stage protests. There is nothing like that is allowed. You cannot even stand with a placard. When they go on TV and radio, you shut down the radio stations. What do you want the opposition to do? Or what does government want opposition to do? In order for them to be heard, or to just, for their faults not to be used against them.
What should be on record, I am not condoning what government is doing. And for any reason, it's wrong. Especially for someone who has had this, a reasonable...
Yes.
I've been treated a bit like that.
You know what
Maybe
it
not
means.
as much as...
You know what it means to be in Zake's
I know
position.
what it means.
Oh, what? Because
know,
at least Zake is an MP.
So, yeah, for me, I think, again, the opposition, like every other avenue, has been closed. And that is why I'm saying that sometimes I understand what they are doing. But again, and I want to still use the example of, for example, people like Besigye. You've had Besigye speak, and maybe Besigye has not brought the change that we need. But would you say that by Zaki speaking the way he does and behaving the way he does, or anyone else, have they done much better than Besigye has?
No.
But Besigye is also one of the people who are...
People are different, Rogers.
I know, I understand. And that's, you asked what the opposition can do.
Yes, please.
And what I am saying is, all that they are doing, they can still do, just not in that way they are doing it. Because what they are doing, all of it, Besigye has done. I do not think Besigye has done it the way they have. And would you conclude that Besigye has done less than they have because he does not do it the way they do?
He hasn't done more.
Yeah, so I think it's true to, you can speak, you can go to the ICC, you can do anything, whatever, and doesn't mean that the government is going to give you the leeway. But I'm just saying that there's a better way to do it. Maybe that's one thing they need to learn from Dr. Besigye. Because as much as anyone else has done, he has done as much as any opposition can do. And the government has not treated him well anyway.
Do you think this is a representation?
But we still think there's sanity, there's order, there's decorum in how he does things. That's just what I think.
Do you think the people are also like their representatives?
In a way, partly yes, but I also think that people become another thing when they get to parliament because of how they are treated. Someone might, with all due regard, have had good interest and people thought he's going to do well. And he came with good intentions. When they reached the house has frustrated them and it turns them into what they become. But another way, sometimes the people themselves have chosen people who should not have been in that house to begin with. And that's open. So as much as I blame those individuals who have done doing stupid things, if I may be open, I also blame their electorates because they're the ones who chose those people.
Because that person they chose is the best.
It's a representation of them.
They could choose among themselves. They said,
a better one.
municipality.
Is that the best we can do? So I blame them, the leaders themselves, for doing a certain way business, but I also blame the electorates themselves because maybe some people are really not good.
Will this culture change? Because now we're talking about we're still looking at opposition political players, but the person who's seated in government is already taking over the opposition.
You asked if that trend will change, and that is the exact reason why we are seated here this morning.
Will it change? And I'm saying, will it change when even the sitting government is already trying to maneuver, to destroy the opposition already?
The opposition.
Even by 2026, I don't even think the opposition shall be here.
It will be.
Okay,
the opposition will be here even in 2050.
People are the opposition.
Yeah, even in 2050, the opposition will always be there. How much
Organized
they can
opposition
do, how much they can do is the question. But the opposition will always be there. Just because the opposition usually sometimes it even comes from the incumbent.
There is opposition in the incumbent itself.
So what the opposition, that question should not be a question that opposition be there. The opposition will always be there. How much they can do should always be the question. So when you look at what we have currently and what may be there in 10 years to come, it may not necessarily be the same. But that is why we are here this morning. That someone who's watching us out there knows what it is that they are supposed to do. That when they come to the next elections, they decide which kind of people have what Waganda call mzinzi, to be able to go to a floor or to be able to stand their position. And not stand in their position in a petty way or just make it about a political party. That they will stand to stand, say, look, this is what I believe in and that is what I will do. Whether they are in government or in the opposition, that is why we are here this morning, that people learn that.
Okay. Moving forward,
eventually, even the people who are in government will think, look, this cannot be happening. This cannot be happening, not on my watch. I cannot be a part of this. I refuse to be a part of this. If something is wrong, speak about it. It will have consequences, that's for sure.
Okay.
But it does not mean you get your tails between your legs and decide, you know what, since I can't do anything, what am I going to do? The people now will have the power. If they know what to do, will have the power to have a better person again.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rogers. Your parting shots.
I mean, for honestly, in this whole conversation, two things, especially predominantly about the Assistant Deputy Speaker of Parliament. I think that's absolutely insane. I think that's ridiculous, to say the least. And I think that shouldn't be even a point to discuss. People need to know better, and this country needs to be governed better. They understand that people want to peddle their interests, and they want their people who they can trust to be able to do that. But I also think that it's not necessary to multiply that house. We are already advocating for reduction, and you're just doing the opposite. I think that's wrong. That to begin with, we need to stop that. We need to stop that. As much as we have our petty interests, at one point, guys, let's also think about this country. Let's think about people who are going to come 20 years ahead, and what is it that they are going to find. What you have as your personal interest cannot go so far. You will have it for 10, 20 years. It's going to end. This country is not going to end. And we are setting bad precedents for the future. If we want better communities, if we want people who are coming ahead to do better, we cannot be setting bad precedents now because they are going to use them even to our advantage too. So for me, I think that is a thing we need to address. For the leaders, I think we need to find better ways of doing things, because some ways may not necessarily get us what we want. Maybe if you think it can work for you, find a way that it works for you. And the one we began with, the point of coffee and all of those sectors, I just want to call upon government to focus on supporting people, supporting initiatives like the D-Bank that is coming up, support those sectors. Those sectors, the people can only do so much. The government has to come up and say, look, this is where you have reached. Can we hold your hand and see where we can take you? And that is what is going to aid the country. That's what is going to change the economy. The individuals themselves may not necessarily do that.
Okay. Thank you so much, Rogers. And of course, thank you to our viewers for watching the program. It's 10 a.m. We've come to the end of this particular broadcast. We shall see you today evening at exactly 7 p.m. Rogers Tulyahabwe will be here with the Hotline Show. From the entire team, this has been the Mighty Drive Show. See you tomorrow at exactly 8 a.m. Good morning.
The alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.